Another very important step in the quilt making process is the piecing. Piecing simply means that we're taking fabric, cutting it up into shapes, could be squares, rectangles, triangles, diamonds, whatever, and sewing those pieces together to make different larger units or blocks or quilt tops, in this case quilt tops. When you are sewing all of these together, the seam allowance that we use is 1/4 of an inch. For any of you that are coming from perhaps a dressmaking background, this might seem really small. And let me tell you, it is a whole lot smaller. But the important thing here is that it be accurate. So we have a couple of little guides that will help you get that on your machine, regardless of what type of machine you have. So let me show you how that'll work. Most of you will have a presser foot that looks similar to one on the right. That's a general purpose foot. On my Bernina, I use the number 37, which is a patchwork foot. And this will give me an accurate 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. If you have just a general purpose foot, let me go ahead and put this one on and show you how you can mark your machine so that you will have an accurate 1/4 of an inch every time you sit down to sew. There we go. This is one of my new favorite little tools, and it's called the Perfect Piecing Seam Guide by Perkins. I'm going to insert this guide right underneath the presser foot so that we can mark a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. There's a little hole right here in this guide, and what I'm doing is I'm dropping the needle down. Let me peek under here. Let's see if we can get it in. After a little bit of fiddling, I've got the needle down into the hole in the guide. I'm going to drop the presser foot down. Make sure that this is resting square onto the plate or the bed of your machine. And I've just made a little, I call it the Great Wall here. I've got several layers of it's a painter's tape. Probably about 10 layers thick or so, all right? And I'm butting this right up against the guide. So now I have a nice long run that I can use when I'm sewing. So let's get rid of the guide, get everything out of the way. And I've got 2 pieces of fabric. So I've got my strips already cut and they're layered. I've got 2 right sides together. Right hand edges are nice and even with each other. And I'm going to use the edge of my the tape as a guide. You see how I take my fingers right back here and just let the machine do the work all the way down the full length of your sets. Okay? There might be times when you want to use some pins, depending on what you're sewing. And I have to say, I'm really kind of particular about pins. I hate these great big ones that feel like nails. But these are fine glass head pins that are really nice to use with piecing. If you've got any of those great big ones with the big plastic heads, those are fine if you want to use them on your design wall, but really, this is the better choice for piecing. Okay? So take your time to find whatever you have to do, whatever's needed to get that accurate seam allowance, because those seams will, if they're not consistent, it will just not work out for you in the end. All right? So let's not forget those of you who might have one of these neat little 1/4 inch presser feet. Go ahead, let me go ahead and put this on. And honestly, I would use this tape anyway, just because it gives me a nice long run, as I showed you earlier, when you're stitching. So again, it's like a little checkpoint. You've got the 1/4 inch foot on there, but you still have the guide to keep you on track. I say anything that helps, anything that works, use it. Make your life easier and have fun with this. That's what it's all about.